caliber panelists as they discuss some very interesting topics. Again, talking about celebrating African History Month in our schools, and of course, rhythm in the valley with Sister Ava, among others. It gives me great pleasure once again to welcome Shabaka Kambon, Reverend Kwame Kamau, and Dr. Fergus. Good evening, one and all.
Good evening, Ruskin, and good evening to the listeners on 91.1 Talk City. Good evening to our listeners and viewers on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome to another edition of the Africa Report coming up just now, but this is Indaba, where knowledge grows. Good evening, my brother, Kwame.
Good
I
evening,
think
Baba.
having Shabaka join us late. I didn't get that earlier. Is he joining us late or is he not?
Yes, Shabaka, our beloved activist, is going to be joining us a little later in the program, of course, working hard as usual. But definitely we're looking forward to seeing him tonight and talking about what I look forward to. Definitely look forward to the last segment with regards to Sister Ava, if I'm to be correct, and her cultural presentation on tonight, speaking to all things with regards to the festival. I'm absolutely looking forward to the youth on tonight as they come to discuss all things African heritage from the standpoint of African hair, the African history quiz, as well as, of course, African heroes, in this case, sheroes, who are stepping up to the plate and making a difference in their school. We'll talk about that a little later. But your Africa report intrigues me on tonight. I can't say that I am aware of this particular surgeon at all and the work that he does, but I'm sure that by the time you're done, I would I would have been given a master class in terms of your Africa report tonight. Let's hope that all technical difficulties are ironed out. I know there were some challenges. Really looking forward to it. But before we start on tonight, I am advised, Dr. Fergus, that with regards to the secretariat, that there will be a report from the secretariat on tonight. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tell me about your Africa report when you get the chance. But again, always a pleasure to be in the company of the hardest working retired professor that I know. And because of Indaba, you're certainly not retired at all. But I don't know, you make it work, but I'm a fan. What can I tell you?
Indeed, indeed. I just saw a notice from Rene and it's positive that the little problem has been resolved. So we should be having the report. I consider it a service to African men, uh, not only in Africa, but the Pan-African community, wherever you find Africans, but in men in general. It's a problem that affects all men. It's about the prostate. So it's mature discussion this evening on the Africa report, as well as a historical overview. I always go beyond in keeping with the philosophy of Indaba, where knowledge goes.
Absolutely.
So that is preceded by an overview of medicine in Africa from ancient times to the eve of the colonial period as well, so that you see that continuity in the African genius in the medical field. So
Excellent.
basically, that's what the Africa report will be about this evening.
Looking forward to it. Now, I'm not sure if the ESC is going to be doing that secretariat report on tonight. If indeed they are, we look forward to it by way of either personal clip. But without further ado,
okay. So we have a notice here, no report tonight. So as I was privy to be there at the finals, I would just want to say it was one of the greatest finals ever.
Right.
That I can recall. Of course, I cannot say who the winners are. I think if they had come on with the report, they can't either, because the show would be on Sunday. I think the finals would be televised on Sunday. So as far as the public is concerned, no one knows who the winners are except the winners and those that were there. at the event. But it was a great event. It was really, really great
Was
event.
it was it a close finish? And of course, for context,
Well,
we
it
are
was
talking
one
about
of
the
the
African
closest. Well,
history
I can
quiz.
tell you it was one of the closest. It was toe to toe or head to head, however you want it,
Wow.
and at a high level, not at a low level, a very,
Okay.
very high level.
Very
You
high
know,
level.
there to the extent that you had to have a runoff,
Mm,
in order to decide the final. So
really?
it was that close. It was that
It was
exciting
that close.
and exciting. It was that excited as well. Yeah,
Wow.
students
Wow.
were well
Wow.
prepared, and they just went for it this time. I was excited. I was pleased, and I think it augurs well for the future as well.
Absolutely.
What the
Absolutely.
spoken word was at a very high level of performance as
Mm,
well. And those students really did their best, and the quiz as well. Yeah,
yeah.
so that's it.
So on Sunday, just before we go, we get to see this live. Well, not live, pre-recorded by way of TTT, Trinidad and Tobago Television,
Yes,
on
TBD.
Sunday. So that is our broadcaster, Trinidad and Tobago Television. So this Sunday, can you remind us as to the time, Dr. Fergus? So we
I
get to
never
know
can
technical,
recall the time, but I think they're going to do the spoken word first, followed by the
right?
quiz. Perhaps Renee or someone can post up. Okay, it's 10 o'clock in the morning for the spoken word. It's ten
Beautiful.
o'clock, TDT, 10 o'clock, and that would be followed by the quiz, I think, in the early afternoon. 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be the quiz. So 10 in the morning, spoken word, that's the primary school competition, and in the afternoon, the secondary schools, and that would be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So basically, that's your ESC report unofficially this evening.
Good to see.
Yeah.
Virtual report. Good to see, Baba. We are thankful for it. Let's go straight into the Africa report, and we'll see you, lovely folks, on the other side.
Yes, bring up the report one time, Renee, because it's a little bit longer than usual. So I think the prelude would be what I have said earlier. So let's go for it now. Bring it up, please. The Africa report. This week's Africa Report introduces prostate pioneering surgeon Professor Kingsley Ekweme as our contribution to History Month in Trinidad and Tobago. He is introduced by Kelly Egiga of Channels Television.
My guest on the program today is Professor Kingsley Ekweme, a consultant urologist and robotic surgeon who in 2022 performed the first set of laparoscopic radical prostatectomy here in Nigeria and indeed sub-Saharan Africa. But that's not all. Professor Ekweme is also deeply concerned that 1 in 4 black men will have prostate cancer in their lifetime. This Africa report complements the Emancipation Support Committee's just completed 2024 edition of the African History Quiz for secondary schools, in which an entire section of the manual for participants feature Africans in science, mathematics, and advanced technology. Africa has a long track record in pioneering developments in the field of medicine, including surgery, dating back to at least Hor-Aha, son of Menes, the first pharaoh of United Kemet, or ancient Egypt. But the most renowned medical practitioner of them all was the multi-genius called Imhotep, who was born almost 5,000 years ago in Kemet and became the first known human to be deified and worshipped as the god of medicine. Imhotep was known to the Greeks as Imhotep, but they also worshipped him as a god of medicine and assimilated him to their own deity, Asclepius. Now, this Greek connection is important to why we know so little about Imhotep. Greek history does not extend beyond the 12th century BCE, more than 1500 years after Imhotep. Yet European racist intellectuals successfully relegated Imhotep and elevated the Greek physician Hippocrates as father of medicine, although Hippocrates acknowledged learning about diet and health from Kemetic physicians. Hippocrates was born in the 5th century BCE. Imhotep, on the other hand, was born more than 2,500 years before Hippocrates.
Ironically, although for centuries they had immortalized Hippocrates through the oath of ethics called the Hippocratic Oath taken by new doctors, they unwittingly immortalized Imhotep by retaining his alter ego, Asclepius, as the second-ranked deity in the original oath, among other gods and goddesses associated with health and well-being. The original Hippocratic Oath began, quote, "I swear by Apollo the physician and Asclepius," end quote. This Asclepius was none other than Imhotep the African. A Greco-Roman surgeon of the 2nd century CE named Galen wrote, quote, "The invention of medicine was the experience of the Egyptians," end quote. 19th century Canadian professor of medicine, Sir William Alsler, considered Imhotep, quote, "the first figure of a physician to stand out clearly from the midst of antiquity," end quote. African doctors should reclaim Imhotep as their own. Many books and essays written by medical practitioners of Kemet still exist and are known as medical papyri because they were written on papyrus. These works reveal vast knowledge of anatomy and pharmacology, method of diagnosis and treatment of ailments. Unfortunately, these works are mostly labeled with European appellations. Two of the best known for their medical procedures are the Edwin Smith Papyrus of the 17th century BCE with descriptions dating back to the time of Imhotep, and the Ebers Papyrus of the mid-16th century BCE. The Ebers Papyrus describes surgical operations using knives and methods for cauterization of wounds to stop internal bleeding. This papyrus explains surgical methods on abscesses, cysts, and tumors around the prostate, but without specifically mentioning that gland. Further south, in the heartland of Africa, well before European colonization, Africans were also skilled in surgical procedures. Among the Maasai in East Africa, native surgeons drilled holes into the chest to treat pleurisy and pneumonitis. Surgeons of the Bonyoro people of Uganda are the world's first known surgeons to carry out cesarean operations aimed at saving the lives of both mother and child. Elsewhere, it was the child that surgeons sought to save at the expense of the mother. Professor Ekweme and other modern African surgeons therefore share a long, proud history of indigenous African knowledge and pioneering skills. This week's Africa Report focuses on Ekweme's breakthrough in treating prostate cancers. I selected Ekweme because prostate cancer is the leading cause of death among Africans in many parts of the world, including Ekweme's native Nigeria. Unfortunately, many of these deaths occur because of association of the prostate with a man's virility and the dread and embarrassment of the finger probe. Too many men prefer to risk death from not testing than to do periodic tests of the prostate. Ekweme's patriotism is exemplary. Many African doctors domiciled abroad do not return to their native land except for social visits, but not Ekweme.
Over the last 2.5 years, I have dedicated my spare time to coming home to Nigeria rather than go spending time on exotic holidays abroad in order to give back to my people. My motivation for coming to give back is driven by the egregious statistic of the impact of prostate cancer on Nigerians and their families. My dream is that no man should have to die needlessly from prostate cancer, because I know that if detected early, prostate cancer is curable.
Ekweme has partnered with Reddington Hospital in Lagos, along with some of his British colleagues, to bring relief and hope to Nigeria's burgeoning prostate cancer cases. His medical studies began in the University of Ibadan in Yorubaland, southwestern Nigeria, but he migrated to the UK to further his studies. Ekweme uses robotic technology to reach the prostate without harming the bowels. He removes the prostate and takes it to the lab for testing.
This specially trained surgeon tells me how he uses robotic technology to remove a patient's cancer.
Having inserted the ports, those keyhole ports, into the patient, I don't go through the abdomen. I go outside the abdomen. I create a space to be able to operate on the prostate from there. And that's why when I finish, the men can eat immediately because I do not manipulate the bowel at all. Okay? Then I will detach the prostate. I will do nerve sparing, which I did today to save the nerves for erection. I detach the prostate eventually. I put the prostate in a bag, which at the end of the procedure, I remove the bag through one of the keyhole ports with the prostate, and I send it to the lab. Having detached the prostate, you've got the bladder that is disconnected from the urethra because the prostate was in between. So I have to join that bladder back to the urethra. I have to do reconstruction. Through the keyholes, I would reconstruct the bladder and the urethra. Perfect. Tested, watertight. End of operation.
Now let's hear why this operation scares most men.
I'm going to perform laparoscopic radical prostatectomy for prostate cancer on a 57-year-old patient. He has a high-risk cancer, and I'm going to dissect it very carefully with precision because he's 57, he needs his erection, so I need to spare the nerves without compromising the oncological clearance of the cancer as well.
Channel's reporter Egiga is in the operating theater filming the entire surgical procedure.
We observe his keen dedication and passion, as well as being meticulous during the procedure.
So I have music in the operation room because it relaxes me, helps me to concentrate. Yes, and what I do is extremely very intense.
After all, what is being African without music and rhythm? Let's conclude with the vital signs and symptoms of acute prostate illnesses.
The vast majority of people, by the way, that will have a high PSA test don't have cancer. No, it doesn't. We'll say it just means that we can look at you in more detail. So what I'm saying here is that you can have significant prostate cancer without any symptoms. And that's an important message. If you have symptoms with aggressive prostate cancer, most of the time it's spread. That's why you're getting symptoms. So you want to catch it when you are asymptomatic. But if a man is waking up at night frequently to go to the toilet, or going to the toilet and the urine is coming very slow, he should seek a urology opinion. Those are early signs. Even erection. A man whose erection goes down for no reason should seek a urologist. It could be a sign of something else. But far more than that, if you have a family member with prostate cancer, very important, you must get your PSA done. I would recommend you get it done by 45 years.
To know more, you can visit YouTube and look for Meet Professor Kingsley Ekweme, the surgeon who cures prostate cancer with robots. Yes, I thought I had to do one for the male scientist. I thought
Absolutely.
that the manual didn't have any male. I know I often advocate for the inclusion of female in whatever topic I'm doing. So I thought, we can't reverse that. We have to include the men as well. And Africa wasn't included. The continent of Africa wasn't included. So this was a sort of an addendum to this year's Africa report, African History Quiz Manual. And since we have students in the studio with us, I think they should appreciate that we do have a lot of brilliant scientists and other, medical practitioners on the continent, and we have a long history of that. Okay, so that's the report, and as I said, it's a mature report. I edited out a lot of stuff from it, but sometimes we just have to face the facts in order to understand
Sure.
a problem, right? You
Well, I
can't.
will just make a very, very short point because we have some amazing guests that I can't wait to introduce. But for what it's worth, thank you for taking one for the team. Thank you for batting on behalf of the team. That's one. As men, we need to be comfortable about discussing an issue that claims the lives of one in four of us. And so, while mature, and so, while sensitive a topic, as a demographic, we are especially vulnerable. And so, it behooves us then, therefore, to introduce a topic, to talk about it, but not talk about it from the perspective of the danger and the scare. What I love about tonight's program, and certainly for Cancer Month, this should be highlighted, is the fact that there is a procedure. It is less invasive. The bowels remain intact. He creates these wonderful keyholes. He does what he has to do. Very important, especially for a lot of men. The nerves are not damaged, so you get to maintain your masculinity in that regard, and you can go back to your normal functioning, and so it's a win-win-win. Easier detection, easier treatment, and post operation, a return to normalcy is almost instantaneous. This is an African man's dream come true, any man certainly. But I'm really a big fan of tonight's Africa report, and thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, he's the first. He's the first to accomplish that feat. So that's one of the reasons I presented him to. He's not just doing this, he's the first setting this particular standard for others to follow.
The
So
pioneer.
that's why I have as part of the title, there's hope. There's hope on this horizon for men, through this kind of development that we have here from Equine. So we can move on to the next segment, and we can bring up the who is coming up next. Yeah. Okay, great. Right. History Month is here with us in studio online. Yes, we have some brilliant students here with their teacher, and we are going to have a discussion on
Absolutely.
African History Month. Yes. So I don't think we have ever had such a panel. I don't recall. We have
No, it's a
had
first. It's a
students now
first.
and then, but never a whole panel of students and their teachers. So welcome to Indaba, and I hope that you guys don't only appear on the program, but that you follow the program in future. You spread the message, because this is one of a kind program on radio that we have, and we have been pioneering this kind of discussion for years. We are still the only one, the only program like that in Trinidad and Tobago. So welcome, and you're here to contribute to that knowledge as well. So, Miss, could you introduce yourself and the students, just as they might have done on the show? You can introduce yourselves. And do we have the captain here with us, the captain of the team?
We have one. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so please introduce yourself, your school, and tell us what you have been doing with respect to African History Month in your school in particular? How has African History Month impacted you personally and others in your school as well? Just have a go at it first.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having Holy Faith Convent Penal on this wonderful, wonderful live stream. For one, we will truly bring it back and we'll spread the word and the message because this is truly an educational and informative show. We have with us the captain of our African History Quiz, Miss Aneesa Ali. We have Karimah Thompson and Eshea Williams, who are the two hosts for the African History Week. And we have the founder of our African Cultural Club, Miss Sherika George, with us today. Now, the reason why we would have initially started our African History Week is that, as we know, emancipation is in August, and schools do not get to celebrate the beauty of what emancipation is and how it has brought us culturally in Trinidad and Tobago. So we decided that it was time, and of course they will, Karimah and Eshea will speak more about it, but we believe that it was time to bring it forward. So without me in the mix, because I really want the students who are well informed and educated to get the forefront here. So I will pass it on to Karimah and Eshea.
Okay, so tell us about the cultural club, the African Cultural Club. I think that is particularly interesting. Tell us about that. How old is it and how is it functioning?
Well, so good night. I'm Sherika George, the founder of the club. It's a newly launched club. We launched it this November after our celebration of African History Week. We only had 2 meetings so far, but essentially the club is just a safe space that was created for students of all different backgrounds to learn about all things African culture and to continue to promote that appreciation and awareness of African culture.
I want you to pause there because if I may chime in, I think it's phenomenal that it is inclusive. We talked about DEI coming in, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yes, as a theme that I would use to connect all of these things here and heritage and history and the heroes. And I again correct myself and say sheroes on the program tonight. You said it's for persons of all backgrounds, so it's inclusive, but
Yes.
it creates a safe space for Africa and its history and its heritage to be discussed and to be highlighted, not only for the benefit of African students, but the benefit of other students as well. Tell me, what is the reception like, not only within the African demographic, but outside of the African demographic? Because we are a cosmopolitan nation, we're a rainbow nation. What has been the response, really quickly, in terms of the buy-in from students who may not necessarily be of African descent, but are very interested in all things African? I take note as well of the fact that your captain is not of African descent, immediate extraction, but is also participating and doing a wonderful job at that as well. But talk about the level of inclusion. Is early stages, but is there buy-in? Are you seeing that rainbow nation coming together and rallying around something like African heritage within this club?
Yes, we are seeing it like from the first launch of the club, different students of all backgrounds were excited to attend the meetings. They were actively involved in the meetings, listening, participating, and we even saw it in the celebration of the African History Week. All students of all backgrounds, they were there participating, coming to perform, asking
Nice.
questions. They were excited to come to school every
Awesome.
lunchtime to see what we had going on. So the buy-in is definitely there, and we're definitely seeing the rainbow of all students just coming out to learn about the African culture.
Okay, so let's give each one of the students an opportunity to say something. I want to address the captain, Miss Anisha. Tell us a little bit about Holy Name, your school, and also
Holy
tell
Faith.
us
Holy
Holy
Faith.
Faith. Sorry,
You
Holy
gotta get
Faith.
it right again.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. We have quite a few convents in the
Yes.
competition. tell us a little bit about your school and tell us how you were able to marshal your team throughout the competitions. I think you reached the finals, is that it?
Unfortunately, we did not reach the finals.
But you were in the semis.
Yes.
Right, okay, so tell us how you marshal, how you prepared, and the excitement, and so on, even the challenges up to that point.
Good question.
So tell us about the school first, a little bit about your school.
Mostly, my team was comprised of Form 5 students and one Form 4 students. So we had to juggle between schoolwork, SPAs, but we always tried to make a time. So, like, we would go through one topic each day and set aside time to study it, to analyze it, as well as my school is very well rounded, I would like to say. We not only focus on academics, but lots of activities, and we have many events as well, and we are very supportive with one another, and we try to help our teammates. We tried asking each other questions on our topic, and that is how we were able to prepare and manage to partake.
Okay, so the experience that you had, let's hear from one of the other students, Miss Thompson. Tell us your
Unfortunately, I'm not a
experience
part of the
going through this year's competition.
I'm not a part of the African history quiz. It's only Aneesa
All,
here, so she would have to
okay,
take that question.
okay, so Miss Williams, you were there, right? You were on the team, the history quiz team?
No, only Aneesa Ali was a part
Only
of
in
the
nature. Okay, okay,
yeah.
great, great. Well, tell us about the cultural club. And I threw out the challenge, that schools could think about organizing a school reparation, advocacy, and so on. Are you considering that? Do you think that's a possibility, having, a whole section of your booklet on reparation? So tell us, is that something that might interest you as part of your cultural club? Karina,
I'm sorry,
you
could you
can
please repeat the
answer.
question?
The issue of reparations is a big issue now. Once you're talking African culture was, of course, one of the big victims of the African experience, both in terms of the transatlantic slave trade, of African enslavement in the Caribbean, the attempt to wipe out, not just to suppress, but to wipe out, all aspects of African culture, religion, dance, music, everything. Of course, it didn't succeed. We know they didn't succeed. But so tell us, is reparations something that might interest your club in moving forward? I'm not saying to give us a specific answer, but is that something that stimulated you during the competition, as you had formed your club already, that maybe this is something that, you can think about and maybe you organize around as you go forward?
Yes, I definitely think that the coverage of that topic would interest the girls. So it was be on one of the list of many things that we want to do next term.
Okay, great.
If I may at all, I want to make it practical. As a reparations specialist is in my name, African Reparations Minister. A lot of times when we are talking reparations, most people think about reparations through the lens of what is owed, and there's a lot owed. Don't get me wrong. A lot of those former colonial powers, so to speak, owe a great debt, and that is very well documented. But there's another aspect of reparations that has to do with self repair and the kind of repair, the kind of internal self healing that can take place. And when I look at the panel tonight, I see persons who are representing hair and African hair, and the celebration of African hair. That in itself is reparatory. That in itself is a healing. That in itself is being able to look at yourself in the mirror in your natural state and appreciate yourself. Rastafari would correct us and say, nah, we don't appreciate, we appreciate love. And so you can appreciate love yourself by looking at yourself in the natural, because I not appreciate nothing. I appreciate love. Don't write that in an exam, you'll fail. But in local parlance, because Miss is listening, right? And I can't teach you bad grammar. and bad spelling. But you get the point. Talk to us about the hair component, the celebration of African hair, the celebration of African aesthetic, and how empowering is it, your students, but you can chime in, how important is it that we have policy now through this current government, through this current administration, that allows for girls very much like yourselves to do your natural afrocentric do's, hairstyles, without penalization. So speak to that, your own personal experience if you've had it, and the experience of others within your school in terms of hair being a canvas for African expression. Who wants to take that?
Let's hear Karimah. Let's hear Karimah. Since I invited you already.
Yes,
Yes,
I'll
you have a
take this
natural hair day, so you can include that as well. Yeah.
All right. So I would just like to start by saying that it wasn't just the African Hair Day, it was an entire week centered around commemorating and sensitizing our schools community on African history. So we would have started off with Melanin Monday, and this is particularly about our hair, embracing our hair, because we know that there are many stereotypes surrounding African women and their natural hair. And so they would deem us wearing our natural crowns as unprofessional, and they are associated with neglect and lack of versatility, and all of these different things are the stereotypes that are around our hair. So we decided that, we were going to create this day to allow students to embrace their natural crown without feeling like maybe they are a bit left out or anything like that. So we just wanted to challenge these different misconceptions. So that's where the Afro Day, came from. So yes, that's what we did on the Monday, and then on the Tuesday we had Tribal Tuesday, where our students were able to wrap their hair, paint their faces. Then we had Wisdom Wednesday, where we would have quizzed the students on their knowledge of African cultures, and we took it from all different themes of African history. And following that, we had Theatric Thursday, and we had different groups come in, like Frontline Drumming. So they would have performed for us, they would have interacted with our girls, taught our girls certain drumology pieces and stuff. So that was really cool. And then we ended our week with Freedom Friday. So this is where our girls actually got to dress in their cultural attire. They got to wrap their hair or paint their faces, and they also got to model and just feel comfortable in their culture. So with respect to this week, our feedback, it was positive from our past and present students. All over social media, our videos were going viral, especially the Afro Day video, where students were just, showing their outpouring of love and support for our initiative. And we hope to do it again next year and keep it a recurring event. So yes.
Great, and I hope you attempt to spread it to other schools. Let's hear Eshea Williams. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Eshea, is that it?
Hi, good night. It's Eshea Williams.
Eshea, I was close, yes. Okay, so tell us about that as well.
We believe that celebrating African History Month was important because not only does it promote, the cultural awareness, but it highlights, like our cultural history and allow the children to, get the knowledge of it. It would also give our students a sense of pride and to feel represented. I feel as though, we thought that, going into doing this African History Week, we're like, what would the feedback be like? But we were really excited to know that, everyone was so inclusive and everyone had a great time. And not only was it an educational week, but it was very engaging. And, we are very appreciative of that.
Okay, so I hope we can have the winner of this year's competition with us, because I think this is the first time having a panel such as this. So Aneesa, I want you, we have to wrap up this section just now. So Aneesa, as captain of the team, how were you personally and others in your school impacted by what you learned this year from the quiz? And we would have the last word from Miss. I think that's it, that we'll have the last word from Miss. Yes, so go ahead.
Okay, good night. So personally,
your team and those that you interact with, how
Sure.
the learning that you got from not just the booklet, but from interacting and discussing the themes. I'm sure you would have done some internet searches to back up some of these stuff and so on. How did that impact on you?
Okay, well, the knowledge I gained was really eye-opening. It's not really information you find every day on random searches. Like, as the video was playing in the beginning, I remembered about an African scientist that I had to learn, Maxine, and how she did research on benign, on pumpkin seed oil and how it was beneficial in the management of benign prostatic hyperplasia. It's information, it's rich information, and I was grateful to be on the competition as well as my teammates. Everyone was able to study what they like and gain rich new information, and we are very happy to share it with others, telling them about things that they would have not known before, things that it happened and is happening and they aren't aware of, and they are also ecstatic to hear about all this new information that is not like in the regular school syllabus. It's information about our history, about everyone's history, and they were very happy. And the competition allowed us to be able to work better in like teams and to rely on one another and to trust more, as well as know how to share information and share everything that we gained, not only in knowledge but in also in skills.
I'm sure you all have a bright future moving forward. You're also eloquent in addressing the issues. But let's give the last word to Miss, and then we can close this segment. So we want to say thanks to all of you. Thanks for appearing this evening. And as I said, I hope you told your friends you're on tonight and they're looking at you, and you will continue to look at the program. So, Miss, you can have the last word.
So we would like to also thank our anchor, our foundation, Mrs. Serene Joseph Hamlet. She is really a spearhead with the African History Week, African History Quiz, and we are so grateful to have her on board and culturally transforming Holy Faith Convent Penal with one activity after the other. And I would just use this platform to encourage other schools to take up this mantle and spread African history, participate in the quiz, have a week, have an Afro Day, spread the message of what our culture can be and allow the students to be themselves.
I have a question as we close, Baba.
We have to close now.
A quick one. That's a thought, and all I want is a yes. As we look at our curriculum and we see what's missing from it, the depth, the richness of the knowledge that was gained, not only in terms of the African History Quiz, as well as your Africa Week, the hair, all of those wonderful things. Would you agree with me that we need to see a change in the curriculum to include more of this?
Yes,
such that
Yes.
could I get it in a chorus from everybody? Could you just unmute and say yes?
Definitely yes. Absolutely yes.
Well,
Okay,
Trini,
thank you again. Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate your presence this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us.
You're
Pleasant
welcome.
good night to you.
See you again, hopefully.
See you soon. That was a very delightful interview, and of course, we're looking forward to Sister Alva coming to. Oh, there's a good brethren, man. My long lost brethren, my friend from Friendland is here, the extraordinary activist.
He always pops in like a commando, like he dropped in like parachute or something.
Well, gentlemen, I've been enjoying the program tonight, the energy and the information. I just want to make one interjection. I think we have to be very careful about how we sell the idea that the government, that the powers that be, give freedom, liberated African here. That's just not the case. We, the people, the masses, the activists, have been in the trenches for decades. And it is the work, the tireless work that we have done to raise consciousness around the issue that resulted in an environment in which the government had to act appropriately. And so the credit really, while we do celebrate the history making Minister of Education, we have to acknowledge the work of those elders, in the Emancipation Support Committee and other organizations in the Pan-African community that have for decades championed the issue of African hair. So I just want to make that point, and I think we have to
It's a very important point. It's a very important
it's
point.
we give the power to the powers that be. Then when they're ready to take it away, they're going to take it away too. The power is always in the hands of the people.
I agree with you, and it is certainly a point that was very well needed as an augment to what was said. Of course, we know that not only in our region, but in other regions, if an administration wants, it can turn a deaf ear. It could take off the proverbial Eric Williams hearing aid on all that is being said and done and totally ignore. So, yes, we want to definitely include the work of the activists and those who behind the scenes, not only now, but over the years that brought the struggle to this point. We want to bring Sister Ava in because you represent so much. When we think about African hair, we think about you. When we think about African culture, we think about you. When we think about African vibes, we think about you. When we think about the whole process of womanism, African womanism, we think about you. You're an icon. I'm a big fan of yours. We go back long time since hatchet was a hammer. Good to see you. Clearly, with regards to time, it seems as if it stands still where you're concerned. I don't know what's responsible for the youthful look and glow. Maybe is the African vibes, but you're here on tonight because there's something really special coming up, something really special that you're doing. And I want, while we are in this segment, because 91.1 FM is listening, in addition to Facebook and YouTube, we have a live audience by way of 91.1 FM. Could you tell us one more about yourself? And then number two, with regards to the process, what are you working on right now as it relates to the latest of your activities?
I want to greet you in the name of culture, and I want to say all protocol be observed. It's a pleasure to be here with some serious warriors. You know, well, yes, I am Sister Ava, SISTA, because I say sister stands for roots and culture. Anytime you say SISTER, you're talking about in nunnery, right? So, yes, it's all about the roots. Um, I have been, in the struggle since in the morning and been advocating for my Africanness and my people in terms of knowing self. This year, we decide that we have to end the year and start the new year with a bang. We did a program less than 19 years ago, and this program was called Rhythm in the Valley.
Mm.
And this was done by Black Birthmark when the devil was a little boy. That's so long ago, right? About 30 something plus years. We were Black Birthmark. And Rhythm in the Valley was born out of trying to get the youth to understand or understand their culture, the drum and the drummer, and where that evolved from. And we were successful, but we weren't able to host it until this year. Now it's a showcase of the evolution of the steel pan, the drums of skin to the drums of steel. So the youth arm will be hosting that workshop. Again, we are passing or giving them that mantle on that day to carry on that particular workshop, the evolution of the steel pan. So they are going to make the center, the youth center, something like a museum where we're going to have the drums, some skins and different elements that form the skin drum We're gonna have some tambu bamboo and of course some little tools and instruments that assist with forming the steel pan. But they're gonna talk about it and they're gonna engage the children at the workshop and they would be able to actually play. They will teach a little something, and that's the youth arm. They have been trained on the black birthmark. And then, I mean, we evolve as well, right? Because we are now drumline uprising. So we had a long history. So it's a pleasure, and I feel achieved to see our children is carrying on this mantle. Now we also have the I call it the explosion, where we have the tambu bamboo, the same elements, but it's 9 bands. We have like about 10 bands that will be coming. The thing about it though is when I was putting it together, I thought, okay, we just use a couple bands from around the area and just highlight the thing until I start getting the phone call. Bands want to come, they want to be a part. And I started to get worried. I said, how am I going to accommodate these bands? And someone said, don't turn them back, you know? I mean, all we could offer is refreshments, and somewhat we told them we're gonna try our best to help with the transportation. But they responded to the call, and they are coming. And I want to give thanks to all the fans that decide to come out. I really want to give thanks. I appreciate love them for that. It is going to be an annual festival. We're not going to stop here on. We're not going to stop. We're also going to have a little element inside of there where we're going to do a flag woman competition for
Mm.
fun, because that too is a dying art. So we want the women to come out. We probably might make the flags or whatever, and you just come out and have a time. But in all of that, we want to be able to give some tokens of appreciations to persons who has assisted us along the way in our Blackbird Mark drumline war. So we're gonna have a little time for that. One of the bigger reasons that we are doing this is if you take a look at the pan yard or the drum yard, this is the place where you will see the most youth and the most elders working side by side. And if we are to assist, I mean, we might not be able to eradicate the crime and the violence, but we can make a stamp. The more we promote the youth in the panyard or in the drum yard, is the less they on the street, is the less they on the TikTok because they have to learn that music and they are proud to come out and represent. So we are advocating for that, and we will really love other communities to pattern what we are doing. And we have so many small bands popping up all over the place, but they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go. So we could set the pace and set the stage across the region to give them a chance to be heard and have our children too be heard, because this is a language that they talk.
Shabaka, I want to defer to you because we've missed you for so much of the program. Could you lead in this segment with regards to questions? I have 1,000 myself, but I know you're more than capable.
That Sister Abba made there, something is so important, something that you see, someone who has the benefit of traveling in African communities across the Americas. I have noticed that when you go to other communities, you go to a community, African community in Cuba or Venezuela or Ecuador, you'll find that there are spaces where very often elders and young people across the generations get together in social settings. Whereas in Trinidad, you find that there's such a segregation. The generations never interact outside of those special family events. You just don't have social settings where communities of all age groups get together. So it's very interesting that Sister Ava makes that observation about the pan yard and the drum yard. And I think, she might be onto something, critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we were to develop that, a critical question would be, what is the raison d'etre? Big word, small meaning. What do you think is the pull? What do you think is the big reason behind the youth, the middle age, and the seniors coming together? What about the panyard? What about the drum yard that is so magical, that is so special, that it transcends boundaries? I know, but articulate that for the person who hasn't had the experience, who doesn't know the magic of it.
Well, actually, I think it's all about our ancestors. Because if we look at the drum and where the drum come from and how the drum talk and what the drum do and the vibes about the drum, we know we speak in ancestry there. The pan ain't no different to the drum. The pan is just a new way. That is also a drum. So the whole scape of the let's say the ancestors vibes in and you in one with them, you in one and we have the body, the man who there playing and playing. They are calling on the ancestors. They are calling on family. It come like a live libation every day. That's just like a prayer that you doing through the music. There is no way that anyone could explain that, but they could say surely that have to be the works of the ancestors with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sister Ava, you partly answered the question that I had in mind in terms of the theme. I think the theme is sort of poetic, you know, from drums of skin to drums of steel. But
Love it.
explain a little bit more. What is the philosophical underpinning in that theme? You know, a little bit more than the ancestral explanation that you give. That, in addition to something else, must have informed that theme, drums of skin, the drums of steel. Does it speak in specific ways to the trajectory of resistance that we have been through? Is it, you know, like, you know, from the drums of skin of the days, you know, of our arrival here in bondage to the drums of steel, which was an explosion of freedom in a particular way? Specifically, just elaborate a little bit on that philosophical underpinning for us.
Yes, when I think of the drums of skin and the struggle, the drum came out of the struggle. Our people have stood out and still standing out. Haiti is a good example for that. I mean, we could take the drum. The drum is basically three spiritual elements, which is the skin. The skin comes from an animal, whether it be goat skin, cow skin, deer skin. That is an animal. That is life we dealing with there. Then the tree is life, the log is life, and the man himself, his spirit is life. And he is going to carve out this stool and place this skin on it. But his energy and his vibes that he's placing in his spirit in itself. So they become one. That is the great trio. When the time came when they wanted to, let's say, ban the drum, I don't
Right.
think they was very successful with that because our ancestors would have been hiding up in the mountains, up in the bush, up in the hill, and they would have, let's say, put a little calabash of water in some part of the session there, and they could tell when the police come in just by the vibration of the water and the drum. The drum will make a particular kind of vibration, and they know how to confuse the massa, you know, how to confuse them. They would get lost in the bush, they wouldn't find them. But after a time, you know, when they started jail them and do all these kind of inhuman things to them, they had to find a way. I mean, you take the drum, you had to find a way. The tambu bamboo came. They still find that was that wasn't good enough. There was a kind of ban in there too. They said the tambu bamboo was mashing up the pavement. So they didn't want the tambu bamboo anymore. And now we have to get a license to pick the bamboo. So I am looking at after the tambu bamboo in every home. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I cannot call a name to say that this particular person is responsible for the invention of the steel drum. I cannot say that because
Stick a little pin there. We're at the top of the hour, and we want to say thank you to our listeners on 91.1 Talk City. See you again next week for another live edition of Indaba, where knowledge grows. Thank you, and good night. That is 91.1 FM. We continue on social media. I hope I didn't disrupt your thoughts too much. And as I interrupted you, perhaps if you can include in your response, in terms of talking about steel, if it was flowing through my mind there, something about Ogun and maybe re-embracing Ogun in a
yes,
different
I
way.
was getting there.
So, right, good. So, yeah, go ahead now.
Yes. So all that is part of the rebellion. All that was part of the rebellion. And the steel drum, when the steel drum came, Ogun is the one who fights for his brothers and sisters, for his children. He's the one who they would say have water but prefer to bathe in blood. But Ogun is also the one that you will say, is the owner of technology and extraction of the earth that's steel in itself. And because of that whole, let's say, hurt and rebellion stage that our ancestors has been through, at every home you would find some little klimpan, from my research, klimpan and milo pan and stuff like that. Before the steel drum, the biscuit drum, most homes would have burned these klimpans and put it in a kind of section, like about 6 or 9 of them, and pong it with a stick, and that was like a toy for for their children. And the drums, the steel drums started from there. Now, when I look at Africa, they do the same thing. They have these little pans. I don't know if you all ever seen it. These little biscuit pans, and they pound it with a stick and make that same kind of a vibration. So it's all about the spirit inside of there. And yes, the steel pan came, the duduk, and here we are today. But where it came from where it is today, I don't think, for me, in my mind, I don't think there is much difference in the evolution. And I think that this is let's say, we tend to say it's a Shango state. I think it's an Ogun state because the national steel pan, um, it was born here. Is a Trinidad and Tobago thing, while the drum is a Africa thing, is an ancestral thing. But they have worked through that and bring us to this space and place now. And we have to realize that, we have to know that, and that is what talks to the players. I don't want to say the beaters. I kind of just get kind of love when I hear people say they go in and beat pan. They don't beat pan, they play pan. Even the drum has 3 notes. A djembe drum have that 3 notes. You could get rhythm, you could get bass in the and they could get the tenor in the djembe drum. So all of these instruments coming up here have a particular scale that you could use. So yes, that's how I feel, and that is how I would explain the importance of the the evolution of the drum, the steel pan.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating to hear the steel pan and the drum and the evolution from the drum to the steel pan discussed through the lens of the Orisha tradition. And also, that critical point you made there about not finding an individual, to credit for the invention, but seeing it as a collective invention, an invention of the people collectively. I think that those are fascinating, and interesting points. I don't know how my colleagues hear my esteemed colleagues, see this issue.
Oh, certainly,
I,
I
I,
have to
I
agree.
I think it's, well, that's a debatable topic as well, whether it was in the one individual, who was the individual, and so on. But I like the idea of the collective. I definitely like that, a community invention, because as Sister Ava said, children played with these things. These were the times when people made their toys. you know they made their toys that they played with, and in this particular toy, musical toy as such, I like that idea that out of that would have sprung an idea, perhaps, observed by a senior, that look, more could be done with this thing, and assemble those little pads into a single drum, and begin what we know today as the steel drum, but may have started with the children. I like that idea. Not only it was a collective, but might have been the children, might have been the original inspiration
Yes, I think
behind.
so.
So Sister
I love that. I love that a lot. So something came to my mind when you were saying that, and again expressing it through the Orisha tradition, as we think about Shango and fire, and we think about what the African people had to go through in our evolution, in our adaptation to the reality of the colonial project. That was a fire. That was a crucible. That was absolutely a foundry. It was a forging process, and while skin and wood can be used and is used to make merry and to make music and to take us into the astral realm, as drum does in a way that few other things can. Over time, because of the attack on us, psyche, person, people, we had to morph and evolve into something that could withstand greater attacks and greater forces. And so, out of the fire and the foundry of the fire, the steel and the inventiveness of that comes in the African genius that Baba spoke about, is the end product. The end product is something that, on a material level, is less mutable, is less destructible. It can stand a greater test of time, and the evolution is not just in terms of the material, but also in terms of all of these myriad of sounds. We have an entire orchestra now, from tenor to double second to cello for those from foreign lands, to bass, different types of bass. So we have entire orchestras that do this. Talk to me about, in your own words, in your own experience, and please share contact, because you were talking about doing it this year, couldn't be done in other years. I'm sure you would like to have a sponsor. I'm sure a donation or two will make a difference. I am sure through the power of Gaia, we can come together and we can lend a hand and make what you're doing even more successful, more phenomenal. Please share a number with us, number one, and then to talk about, in your own words, this evolution to become more resilient as well as more dynamic, and the pan as a metaphor of both resilience and dynamism in your poetic thought.
Yes, well, I like how you said the fire, because the fire is a combination of both ogun, and we could say the living water as well. We could say water because we need some water there, right? So if you're looking at
Absolutely.
the forces of nature, you could see how this fire had, because you have to forge this thing, you have to grind it, you have to pong it, you have to pong it and continue to make the notes that you decide that you want, the right tonality. Now there are pans that are not tempered, they're not going through the fire, but I kind of don't really like them, but it's not up to me, right? Because people invented stuff. But with that, as you said again, with that Shango fire and that ogun element, it that's just us. That's just the soul of our people. And our musical arranger is going to UTT now. He's not. He just turned 90, and he's one of the directors the Sistava Drumline Uprising. He's one of the musical directors and one of the directors of the workshop. And he has been given back all his life. Right now, they are outside in the center, trying to get the youth and they to come together to teach them something, even if it's one something to play on that night. And yes, we need sponsors, and we would love it if we could have persons donate. But I must say, the Emancipation Support Committee has always been at my side. And since I know myself, Zakia would have always been there from the Blackbird Park era to now. And every time we do a workshop, any workshop at all, we love to collaborate, at least get some artifacts. We have to show the persons who have worked with us. This year, the National Trust, they had a meeting with us. Instead of saying we had a meeting with them, they called and they had a meeting with us when they heard the idea. And it was like, you can't do this alone. Where are you going to do this? So Simeon Road basketball court. So the court is open. Yes, it is open. Well, you need tents. So we're going to organize the tents, so the steel pan, in case, because you see the weather now, the steel pan could be covered. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight, they have a shelter. And I must say thanks for that, that they came through for us. And we're going to do the workshop at the youth center that is just upstairs. It is not a community center. It is not owned by the government. And the villagers at the time, they it's a legacy. They don't ever want it to be owned by the government. So, we have our little struggles. We have to do things on our own, but that's okay. We will try our best to make it happen. My number is 7450036. I can leave, after the show some information with you all. But yes, we would love to have um, collaborations, sponsorship, anything just to make this grow. Is not a Sister Ava thing. This is bigger than Sister Ava. This is saving our youth and this is respecting our elders, because we have a way of pushing them backwards when they done work and thing. You say, okay, I remember that's she don't make sense again. That's granny. We don't want to encourage that. And then we also have a way of saying, them youth and them don't want that. Them like single, 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 single. We saying that. We feeding them that. So when this is the only language that they know and they feed it back to us, we say, them don't want nothing. No, that's a wrong thing. That's a wrong thinking that we have. And I feel that we could make a difference if we really want to make a difference. Just like my colleague Shabaka has said, the government didn't do particular things, it's the people who did it. Right? And we too could make a difference, a meaningful difference, where our let's say the radio, the airwaves. Lancelot Lane said it. Get off the radio. Too much of ism and schism and ism and schism. When last you hear a steel pan on the radio? I mean, you will hear it now and again. But a Kateli All Stars, Woman on the Bass, or a Carita Banker. When you hear these things, you feel alive. And children will tell you, I don't know who's that. I don't know who's Kateli All Stars. I don't know who's Valley Harps. Valley Harps was once Jet 8 Valley Harps. You all will remember Sparrow's Hideaway. And, well, I would have been a baby when Buccaneers was the a pan group. In my area, we always had that pan, that tuning, that singing, that manufacturing. But Sparrow himself had the Buccaneers inside his tent. And Valley Harps had their thing a little down in the valley by Coco Jar there. And both bands singly wasn't really making much sense in their minds. So they decided to join. But Buccaneers went down to Valley Harps. And listen, when they went down there and they formed that bond, they were a force to be reckoned with. Soon come, they had Jet Age. And they were called Jet Age Valley Harps because sponsors just like to know that you achieved something. Instead of assisting you to achieve. They want you to be ready already. Probably that's my mindset, but that's how I see it. So what we're doing here now, a couple of the community members and stuff said, okay, how are we going to help? We still have some little issues with transportation. And I will say this, we reached out to the borough to assist us with transportation, and they said they cannot do that because it's on a Sunday and they will have to pay someone overtime. But in my mind again, what do you rather hear? Gunshots and bodies dropping? This is what you rather hear? And to pay somebody overtime to get the steel bands to come in? And most of them are youth. Now people might say, she well radical, but this
Can we
is
make
how
that
I
appeal?
feel.
No,
This is how I really feel,
I
and
want
and
to
it
take
is
a
sad.
I don't want to cut you across, but I want to make you stick a pin there so we can make an appeal. What borough are you in? What borough? What borough are you in, Sister Ava? Wh- You're muted. What borough
Diego
are you in?
Martin,
Diego
Yes.
Martin. Okay, so we are appealing to the
Diego
Diego
Martin.
Martin Regional Corporation, and we are speaking to the powers that be. I know a number of you listen to the Indaba Radio program, and if you're not listening directly, someone has a connection to you that can make an appeal. We are saying among ourselves, we will do what we can to assist with the transport. But as a borough, as a region, as a Diego Martin Regional Corporation, as the MP for the area, we are making a special appeal on Indaba tonight. We are told about all of the amazing things that they've done on their own, and they are asking for transport as one of the things that will be necessary to make the thing real irie and to make the thing real good. And so we are appealing to you tonight on Indaba. Please, the excuse of not being able to pay overtime, it's not going along too well on tonight, and we are making an appeal on behalf of her and on behalf of the community. There's a lot of crime, there's a lot of violence. This is a crime and violence mitigation strategy. Culture, the arts, constructive, inspirational activity. So we just want to make that appeal on Endaba tonight. And if you're not from the regional corporation, Diego Martin Regional Corporation, but you have an establishment and you have trucks, and you can make your trucks available to Sister Ava and by extension the Diego Martin community for this event, we would love for you to do so. Please, in your wrap up, beyond transport, identify what else you need. Please restate the name of the festival, the theme of the festival, and your contact number for those persons listening on tonight and would like to make a difference in terms of what you're doing. We can't hear you, brother Shabaka. You're muted.
Oh, that question I thought was to Sister Ava for her to, and I think
Yes,
the
it is. It is to Sister Ava. But I
actually
saw you talking, so I was wondering if you
I
were saying something. We didn't hear you.
yes, a workshop. So Sister Ava, once again, for those who might have missed you at the beginning, tell the listening audience exactly what is going to happen on the Sunday and restate your information so that those who do have the means to assist could get in touch with you.
Yes. We're gonna have Rhythm in the Valley on the 1st of December. Workshop starts at 12:30 and ends at 2:30.
Right.
Then
And
we're
what
gonna
would the
have,
workshop entail, Sister Ava?
pardon me,
What would the workshop entail?
the evolution of the steel pan.
Okay, so you're going to have a discussion about the evolution of the steel pan.
Yes, the youth arm is going to have a discussion. It will be a hands-on kind of vibes where they will teach them a couple things and have them really touch the instruments and create and recreate like the tango
See,
bamboo. They
yeah,
will learn to play it,
there's
stuff
a
like that.
interactive uh,
Yes, yes,
exhibition
yes.
discussion. So it's not your usual talk shop.
No, no.
Excellent.
Again, it's the youth, eh? It's the youth, and so we have to listen to them and assist them along the way. And this is what they wanted, so we're giving them that opportunity. to do such.
Excellent, excellent. And what a not a better time than the present to do that. Okay, and now tell
Yes.
us again your contact information for those people who want to support this effort and who believe in the work that you're doing. And of course, I want to say again that it is so important for us to continue to work within those communities that are designated as marginalized by some organizations or hotspots by others. That kind of work is needed now more than ever. So, for those of you who want to support this work, please take note of the following details. Go ahead, Sister Ava.
Yes. From let's say 4:30, we would have a
Sister Ava,
procession.
your details, your email address, and your
Oh,
telephone number.
7450038. That's my cell number,
Say
and
it a
my
little
email.
slower. Say it a little slower in case somebody's writing.
7450038. That's my cell number. My email address is ruthavassam@gmail.com. All common letters. Ruth, RUTHAVASAM @gmail.com.
Indeed. And so thank you very much, Sister Ava, for agreeing to come with us tonight to share more information about this important community cultural event. It has been a
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
pleasure with you
Thank you.
here on Indaba. Gentlemen,
Yes.
brothers,
The usual curtains closing comment from Kwame. Look at your comment, see if we have anybody there we want to recognize, and then we pull the curtains for this evening.
Sure, I will. I'll be very, very happy to do so. I will start with the last first. Dr. Gion Clark out of New York is gracing us. Queen Mother out of New York there. Greetings to you. Greeting us. It might be her first time commenting, not her first time listening, but her first time commenting. We thank you for that. Be sure to like, comment, and share as far and wide as possible. We also have CJ Lucky, Luciano Curtis saying very nice in relation to the program. Again, thumbs up to us. We have a warrior, a scholar warrior in the person of Cecile Johnson, an African development planner. Certainly someone that is very sacred and special to the United Kingdoms of Ubuntu on our program on tonight. Wonderful job, young ladies. And of course, that has to do with the part of the program earlier on as we hosted the young women with regards to the African Heritage Week, the African Hair celebration, as well as their participation in the African History Quiz as hosted by the Emancipation Support Committee. We also have Sishi as well, Love Shine, indicating her interest by way of Facebook, as well as others. We want to recognize Sister Angela too, as well as out of Botswana. This is wonderful. Sister Tandy Garnett, Her Excellency, a Royal Ambassador out of Botswana, is shining in on tonight and is giving the thumbs up, saying amazing. So greetings to you, Your Excellency. Glad to have you with us on tonight. You just made my night right there. Definitely gonna call you there after. And it's very late for her because they are at least 5 to 6 hours ahead. So imagine she's up tuning in and giving comment. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. Truly appreciative of it. Of course, right there in St. Lucia, they prefer to say uh, Ayanola as the name, the indigenous name of the island. So we have Bongo Wisely tuning in on tonight and bringing greetings from St. Lucia. And if we have one person commenting, it's always going to be Her Excellency Deborah E. Walters, bringing greetings to the Indaba family on tonight. So that is a glimpse of the YouTube and the Facebook comments. Solidarity. We're talking Caribbean. We're talking Botswana. We are talking New York. We are talking Jamaica in the house. a diversity of persons coming in on tonight to show love for Indaba. Again, remember, smash that like button. Be sure to comment and share this as far and as wide as possible. We want to grow our Indaba audience. And with that, we're out of time, but never out of love or faith or words. This has been yet another edition of Indaba, the place where knowledge grows, the place to find consensus, the voice of the Emancipation Support Committee, and absolutely the voice of the people. I want to thank Baba, Dr. Claudius Fergus, the hardest working retired professor on the planet. I want to thank my very extraordinary Pan Africanist brother, activist extraordinaire. Was late on tonight, but whenever he's late, you know he's working. You know he's putting in the work. You know he's putting in the time, putting in the effort. I don't know where he gets time to do it all. And his passport, is has so many stamps. I don't know where he's going next. Maybe he'll tell us on the next program. I want to interview you. There's so much that you're doing. We have to set aside some time, my brother, to interview you. You are a young phenom. And when I say young, the Pan-African community is a very, what I would say, I don't want to be disparaging at all. We have a lot of wonderful and beautiful elders in the midst. So even if you're in your 40s, we have people in their 70s and 80s and 90s batting strong in this community. So at the age of 40, 50, you're still a young man. You're not even considered an elder properly yet. But you put in the work, and the work that you do is amazing. And a lot of people might not know your name. You need to know this young man's name, an activist extraordinaire. Welcome him, invite him, have him address your audience. You trust me, you're not going to regret it. With those few words, I want to say thank you to our producer on tonight, Queen Mother Zakia Uzuma Wadada. I want to say thank you to technical staff in Rene Francois and all within the ESC, both from a directorate level, a management level, and all of those persons who make it a success. Thank you to the staff that made the African History Quiz a success, as well as the staff that made the spoken word a success. Remember, this Sunday, live via Facebook, Emancipation Support Committee, as well as pre-recorded by way of TTT. You can tune in to the spoken word at 10 a.m. Trinidad Television station, and at 4 p.m. you can tune in for the African History Quiz. According to Baba Fergus, it was a nail-biting finish that required an overtime in order to settle the difference. I can't wait. My children and I, we're going to be seated. We're going to have popcorn, and we're going to be, watching the amazing work that was done. Every year, it's a phenomenal success. Thanks again to TTT, our title sponsor, for doing this, as well as Republic Bank for their amazing work, again, title sponsor, to make this thing happen. Without further ado, we bid you all good night. See you soon, and until the next one, goodbye for now.
Thank you, Kwame.
Thank you.